What is a day of national mourning for the country. The late minister in the presidency, Jackson Mthembu, going to be laid to rest later this morning. 8 o'clock, we understand, there's going to be a family prayer outside his home. We have Siphamandla Goge there, and 9 o'clock this morning, the official funeral program does get underway. We'll also be hearing from not just the ANC president, but the president of the country, Cyril Ramaphosa. He's delivering the eulogy at 10:30 this morning. The rain coming down, that is just outside the home of the late Jackson Mthembu. A number of people have started to gather. We understand that a vehicle carrying the coffin, the hearse, if you will, is going to be doing something of a drive past that area. Many things changing, of course, due to COVID-19. Regular family and cultural traditions cannot be observed. And remembering as well, Jackson Mthembu was that man who we saw on our screens almost daily, telling us to adhere to COVID-19 regulations, and those wishes, if they were his final wishes, they are being obeyed. Everyone wearing masks, everyone's hand sanitizing as well, and I'm sure he would be proud to see how compliant everyone is outside his family home. We're live there throughout this morning. The Basic Education Department says the marking of matric exam papers is on track, with some centres, in fact, ahead of schedule. That's despite difficulties brought on by COVID-19. Over 300 markers, to remind you, testing positive for the virus. So far, good news. Let's get the latest from the department spokesperson, Mr. Elijah Mhlanga. Elijah, good morning to you. Before we start our discussion, my condolences to you and your department for the loss of your comrade and your colleague this morning. Just before we talk about the marking of papers, just briefly, if you can, your memory of the late Jackson Mthembu.
Gareth, good morning, and thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you for the message of condolences. You know, to us, Minister Mthembu was a lot of things. He was our coach as communicators. He would take us into a room and he would tell us what is happening inside cabinet. He would coach us and say, this is what is coming, this is how we need to communicate it. And he was always there for us. When we were with him in a room, you didn't feel like you were with a minister. You felt like you are with a friend, someone who's there to support you and help you succeed in what you do. He was always concerned about the government communication in general, that all of us need to communicate and coordinate messaging so that South Africans can understand what is happening in the country from each and every department and how each department connects to the next. So to us, it's a huge loss. I mean, at the end of those meetings, he would never leave the room. I mean, each one would have an opportunity to go talk to him about whatever it is that you want to talk to him. So he was no ordinary minister. He was like a friend, I mean, like a colleague to us. We never felt fearful to approach him. I mean, you could talk about anything and laugh about everything. So it's a huge loss to us, and we really convey our prayers to the family at this difficult time.
I think you summed it up so nicely, Elijah. Not an ordinary minister. And one of the things that he would focus on often, and he would take a lot of heat from the media, was education last year. Needless of me to remind you about that, and answering questions from the media about how the education sector is handling education, exams, matriculants especially at the start of the lockdown regulations. It's almost a year later, let's call it 10 months later. A lot of lessons have been learned, and now I see that we're able to report that marking of matric exam papers is actually on track. I mean, this is very good news, isn't it?
It is good news, Gareth. In fact, Friday was the last day of marking itself. So all the markers have gone home. The marking centers have been closed down. What we're doing now is capturing of the marks and sending them through to provincial education departments for processing. And from there, it will then come through to the Department of Basic Education, who will then put it all together. But alongside that process is the National Irregularities Investigating Committee, who will be compiling a report of all the irregularities that would have taken place during the time of the examination, and that will be presented to Umalusi for their consideration and decision-making on whether they find the examination to have been credible and fair, and that we could release them as a department.
Just talk to me a little bit, Elijah, if we could, about it must have been something of a setback, especially when there were reports coming out of, at first it was 5, 10, 15, 20 matric markers. These people who are marking these papers were beginning to get COVID-19, and suddenly we're sitting with over 300. This must have had an effect somewhere down that process. What can you tell me about how much it affected it and what you did to remedy it?
Yeah, it's an interesting point, because the focus for this exam marking was on safety and security. We said it's not important to focus on the quality of marking if the health and safety of the markers, you are not making it a priority. So we thought, let's make the health and safety of markers a priority, and then the quality of marking will come after that, because we were fearful. We didn't know. It's the first time that we're marking under these conditions. So we had to come up with a plan to say, if some of our markers test positive, what then do we do? So the plan was that we are going to have 10 to 15% of reserve markers in each province, to make sure that when someone gets COVID, test positive for COVID, we're able to replace them. And that's what we did. We're able to replace most of those that were sent home because of their conditions. And we know as well that others withdrew because of fear, others because someone in their family had tested positive. So we needed to find a way to get the job done while we take care of those that would have been infected and affected. It was not an easy one. We nervous throughout that period, because, in every marking center there was a gathering, something that we're told to avoid. But unfortunately, with marking, there's nothing else we can do. So what we needed to do was to make sure that social distancing is strictly adhered to. That's why the Director General visited all 181 marking centers around the country to make sure that he reminds them of what they should do in terms of strict adherence to the regulations on safety, but also to check on compliance on the safety measures. So that happened, and we are happy that we are here now. Although we lost 7 markers in that period, condolences to all those families that are affected. And our indications are that when they came to the marking centers, they already had the virus from elsewhere. So, those are the difficulties that we've had to encounter along the way, but we're able to resolve them such that we're able to finish the marking process.
Elijah, just before I say goodbye to you for this morning, just put the matriculants out of their misery if you can. When can we expect the announcement of the matric results? Obviously, everything's being pushed out and dates are very fluid at this point, but give the matriculants of last year some hope, something to aim at about when they might get their results. What can you tell me, very briefly?
Yeah, but thanks for that question, because I've been responding to it almost every day. They're asking when. There's no change in the schedule. We're still on schedule. The results will be released on the 22nd of February, and they will get their statements of results on the 23rd of February. On the 15th of February, Umandus will make an announcement, and from there onwards, we'll then prepare the printing of the results based on what they're going to say. So the 22nd of February, that remains the day for the release by the minister, where she's going to make the announcement, and then on the 23rd, that's when they can go to their schools to collect.
And there you have it, matriculants of 2020. You can breathe a sigh of relief. You now have a date. It looks like Elijah Mhlanga. Thank you very much, Department of Basic Education spokesperson.